She was just the janitor, pushing her wheelchair through the sterile hospital halls, when the laughter started, low, cruel chuckles spilling from a cluster of uniformed officers near the nurses' station. They had no idea who she really was. To them, she was just another inconvenient nuisance in the way. But the moment one of them caught sight of the gleaming Navy SEAL trident pin clipped to the side of her chair, everything changed. She was 38 years old, with long chestnut hair pulled tight into a no-nonsense bun, wearing a plain gray sweatshirt and cargo pants. Her wheelchair was worn but meticulously maintained, the black leather seat worn soft from years of use. What no one could see was the story behind the pin, the countless missions, the battles fought in silence, hidden beneath the surface of this quiet, determined woman. For nearly 3 years, she had cleaned these floors daily, invisible to the world but carrying an identity few would dare forget once fully revealed. Her name was Sarah Mitchell, but to those who served beside her, she was Raven. A Master Chief Petty Officer with SEAL Team 6, her real battles were fought in distant deserts and rugged mountains, not hospital corridors. Her legs had been lost 5 years earlier during a covert operation in Afghanistan, when an IED blast nearly took her life. And yet here she was, still fighting, still serving, still refusing to let her disability define her. The hospital janitor's closet concealed a warrior whose courage breathed life into every fiber of her being. Yet, the officers sneered and whispered, eyes flicking to the wheelchair, to the pin, then back to mocking grins as if her presence was an unwelcome joke. Every day for the last 3 years, Sarah had pushed through, enduring the sideways glances and barely disguised disdain. The pain wasn't just physical. It was in being dismissed as less than, as broken, diminished to a pile of cleaning supplies and empty hallways. But she never let that show. Her silence was her oath, and her dignity was unshakable. Quietly, she mopped floors, restocked supplies, and navigated the maze of hospital wings that reminded her painfully how far she had come, and how far some people still refused to see her true worth. Then came the day when everything shifted. It started with a careless shove from a disgruntled officer. Tall, broad-shouldered, mid-30s, clad in a police uniform that suddenly felt like a badge of entitlement rather than protection. "Hey, wheelchair lady," he sneered, "you're in the way." Sarah didn't flinch, she didn't speak. She simply tightened her grip on the wheelchair's handles, steady as ever. But the man wasn't done. As he pushed past, his elbow clipped her elbow. The sudden jolt made her spill the bucket of cleaning water she was carrying. The hot water splashed over her lap, and the officers laughed, mocking her pain under the fluorescent glare of the hospital's antiseptic lights. He leaned in close, trapping her between the wall and himself, voice low and taunting. "You think you belong here?" Sarah's jaw tightened, every muscle fighting the instinct to respond. She remained firm, silent, refusing to give them the satisfaction of fear or anger. Her heart beat steadily, her mind recalling every moment of resilience that had led her here. But the crowd grew, and so did the humiliation. The officers surrounded her table at the hospital cafeteria minutes later, their voices loud enough to make nurses and patients alike pause. "What's a cripple doing with that badge?" one mocked, pointing derisively at the trident pin glinting on the side of her wheelchair. Another reached out, attempting to yank the pin free. That's when a sharp voice cut through the din, freezing the group mid-laughter. "Leave her alone." It came from across the room. A young man in army fatigues, barely more than a kid, eyes sharp and steady. He stepped closer and whispered, "That isn't just a pin. That's Master Chief Mitchell's insignia from SEAL Team 6, the Raven who led Operation Nightfall 5 years ago in Helmand Province." The room fell into a stunned silence. 23 soldiers are alive because of her quick decision-making under fire. She jumped on a grenade to shield her team. "You mocked a ghost and she let you," he said, voice low but commanding. The tallest officer's face went pale, eyes darting to the pin with newfound fear and respect. The general on duty, previously oblivious, froze mid-step upon hearing the name, Raven, whispered urgently by a passing nurse. Within minutes, the hospital's emergency response team was on high alert. 8 black SUVs pulled up outside the hospital's main entrance, their arrival swift, silent, and unmistakably significant. 12 Navy SEALs stepped out, uniformed, disciplined, their presence radiating quiet intimidation. They were there to ensure justice, to protect one of their own. The leader of the group approached Sarah's wheelchair, setting down the emergency kit he carried and kneeling to meet her gaze. "Master Chief Mitchell," he said solemnly, "you don't have to prove anything to them, we stand with you." He saluted first, breaking all protocol, a gesture of deep respect. Her true identity was laid bare in that moment. Not just a janitor or a disabled veteran, but the warfighter who had saved lives, who had sacrificed everything. Her story poured out, the details of Operation Nightfall revealed in fragments by the SEALs who stood by her side. The ambush in a narrow canyon, the split-second call to dive on the grenade, the chaos and courage under fire. 5 minutes later, the enemy was neutralized, and her teammates were alive thanks to her sacrifice. The team leader recounted quietly. The officers who had mocked her were ordered to apologize publicly the same day. The hospital director issued a statement condemning discrimination and promising training to prevent such incidents in the future. The Navy SEALs vowed to make the hospital a protected zone from that moment on. "This place is under our protection now," one announced firmly. The mocking colleagues stood, subdued, no longer able to don the badges they had once wielded with arrogance. They had faced a revelation that stripped their authority and replaced it with profound humility. Sarah's wheelchair, once a symbol of limitation in their eyes, now glistened under the hospital's fluorescent lights as a beacon of strength and resilience. The pin that had meant nothing to them became a powerful emblem of honor, sacrifice, and unyielding spirit. She was not just a janitor. She was Master Chief Sarah Raven Mitchell, a warrior who refused to be invisible. Every scar, every lost limb, every quiet day spent cleaning was proof of a life dedicated to service beyond measure. And in her silence was a storm of bravery that no one could ignore. The room hung heavy with tension when the Navy SEAL team leader finally spoke, his voice calm but unyielding. "You will apologize to Master Chief Mitchell now." The officers, still caught off guard by the sudden arrival of 12 battle-hardened warriors clad in navy blue tactical gear, shuffled awkwardly, their bravado deflating fast. One of the younger officers, the very one who had pushed Sarah earlier, swallowed hard, eyes flickering nervously to the trident pin gleaming defiantly on her wheelchair. The crowd in the hospital cafeteria watched in stunned silence as those who had mocked her, taunted her, tried to erase the weight of her service, were now being held accountable by those who understood sacrifice at its deepest level. A gruff sergeant stepped forward, his voice low but clear enough for all to hear. "You mocked a ghost and she let you." Then, with brutal finality, he added, "Leave. Don't ever come back." The message was unmistakable, the consequences immediate. As the officer's shoulders slumped and apologies stumbled from their lips, Sarah sat tall, her back straight, the warrior beneath the worn sweatshirt finally acknowledged. Outside the cafeteria, the news of the confrontation spread like wildfire. Nurses paused their rounds, patients craned their necks, and hospital staff gathered in hushed clusters, exchanging whispers. The hospital director, a stern woman in her 50s with a reputation for strict policy enforcement, arrived on the scene. She approached Sarah with a mixture of reverence and regret, the scars of her own military family visible in her eyes. "Master Chief Mitchell," she said quietly, reaching out to grasp Sarah's hand, "I am deeply sorry for what you endured here. We will be implementing mandatory sensitivity training starting immediately. This place is under our protection now." It was a vow that didn't just carry words but a promise backed by swift, concrete action. The director's announcement was met with a mix of relief and respect, a recognition that this hospital, once a place of silent judgment, would now stand as a bastion of honor. The SEAL team leader turned to Sarah, his gaze unwavering. "You carried us through hell 5 years ago," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Now we carry you." They wheeled in a commemorative plaque engraved, with the SEAL trident surrounded by the words to Master Chief Sarah Raven Mitchell, "Your courage saved lives. Your spirit saves us all." As the plaque was secured near the hospital's main entrance, it served as a daily reminder to every passerby that valor and sacrifice often go unseen, but not unnoticed, not anymore. The hospital corridors, once cold and indifferent, now buzzed with a new energy, a respect and awe, for the woman who had shown them all what true strength looked like. Delving into her story, the SEALs shared the full account of Operation Nightfall with hospital staff and a gathering of local media invited to witness the transformation. 5 years before, in the rugged terrain of Helmand Province, under a burning sun that scorched the earth and an enemy that hid in shadows, Sarah, known by her call sign Raven, had led her team on a mission to dismantle a high-value target network. The ambush came swiftly, enemy fighters from all sides, gunfire ripping through the canyon like thunder. In those moments, her instincts took over. A grenade landed amidst her SEALs without hesitation. She threw herself upon the explosive. The blast took her legs but saved 23 of her brothers in arms. 10 minutes later, with medevac on the way, her team neutralized the enemy threat, forever indebted to the sacrifice of their master chief. The room went silent as a young SEAL, barely older than 19, detailed the aftermath, the agony of losing a leader and friend, and yet her refusal to give up. Sarah's rehabilitation was grueling, marked by pain that could have broken a lesser spirit. Instead, she chose resilience, adapting to her disability with the same discipline that had made her a warrior. Today, she pushed her wheelchair through hospital halls not as a symbol of loss, but as a testament to survival. Her Navy SEAL trident wasn't just a pin. It was a badge of honor, a beacon for anyone ever told they were less because of circumstance. As the media cameras flashed and interviews recorded, Sarah remained humble but unwavering. When asked what she wanted people to understand, she answered simply, "Respect isn't given because of what you have. It's earned by what you endure, what you fight for, and how you carry yourself when one's watching." Her voice, steady and quiet, carried the weight of truth. The hospital janitor no longer existed in the eyes of staff or visitors. There stood Master Chief Sarah Mitchell, survivor, leader, warrior. The final act unfolded days later during a formal ceremony held in the hospital's main lobby. Family, friends, military personnel, hospital employees, and local dignitaries gathered in respectful silence as Sarah was officially recognized for her service and sacrifice. The SEAL team presented her with a custom wheelchair, adorned with the SEAL insignia and state-of-the-art adaptive features, designed to make her daily life easier. As Sarah accepted the gift, tears glistened in her eyes, not from weakness but from an overwhelming sense of belonging and honor. The general, who had frozen mid-step during the cafeteria incident, stepped forward, saluting her with utmost respect. "Master Chief, your story is one that humbles and inspires. It reminds us all to look beyond the surface and honor the true warriors among us." The officers who had mocked Sarah faced disciplinary actions that rippled through their departments. One was reassigned to an administrative post far from public interaction, required to undergo extensive training on disability awareness and military culture. Another faced suspension, and the tallest officer, the one who had pushed Sarah, publicly apologized on local news, his voice shaking as he confessed his ignorance and shame. "I didn't know," he said. "I won't forget again." Justice, swift and uncompromising, had been served. The hospital's culture shifted from judgment to reverence, the very air changing as stories like Sarah's became a catalyst for education and empathy. In the weeks that followed, Sarah became more than a janitor. She was an unofficial mentor to wounded veterans who visited the hospital, a symbol of strength for the staff, and a quiet pillar of empowerment. Her daily presence was a living testament that heroism doesn't pause because of disability, and that strength often wears unexpected forms. She shared smiles with nurses, exchanged nods with doctors, and inspired patients who saw in her journey a roadmap of resilience. Her Navy SEAL pin, once overlooked and misunderstood, now shimmered proudly on her wheelchair, commanding respect and reminding everyone that beneath every quiet exterior can lie a force unbreakable. It was a powerful emblem, not just of past battles but of ongoing victories. The victory over prejudice, invisibility, and the silent battles many fight each day. In the months that followed, the story of Sarah Mitchell spread beyond the hospital walls, featured in military journals, local news segments, and veterans outreach programs. Her narrative became part of training modules emphasizing the importance of respect for all veterans, regardless of circumstance. She was invited to speak at veteran affairs clinics and community centers, sharing her story of courage, sacrifice, and the unyielding spirit that defines a true warrior. Her message was clear: dignity and honor are not confined to the battlefield. They live in every quiet struggle, every moment of endurance, every act of bravery untold. And as Sarah moved through the hospital daily, pushing her chair with a steady rhythm, eyes that once gleamed with condescension now met hers with something far different: admiration, gratitude, and a deep, abiding respect. She was no longer a figure of sympathy or mockery. She was a living legend, a master chief, the Raven who had survived fire and shattered expectations alike. Her story didn't end that day, it was just beginning. The Navy SEAL pin on her wheelchair was no longer just a symbol. It was a call to honor all who have served and suffered, a beacon for inclusiveness and recognition that transcends uniform and ability. Every time Sarah rolled past a corridor, every time a nurse greeted her, every time a patient caught a glimpse of her steady, determined eyes, the message was loud and clear. Courage is timeless, sacrifice undeniable, and heroes come in all forms. Her fight was far from over, but the battle against ignorance and disrespect had been won. Because in the end, Sarah Raven Mitchell hadn't only held her ground, she transformed it, carving out a legacy that no mockery could erase, no setback could diminish, and no impossible wound could silence. She was no longer invisible, not to them, not to the world, and she never would be again.